Welcome friends, in this lesson I'm going to look at the COUNTIF function in Microsoft Excel. So the COUNTIF function is one of the statistical functions to count the number of cells that meets a criterion. For example, to count the number of times a particular city appears in a customer list. In the simplest form, COUNTIF says COUNTIF, where do you want to look? Where do you want to look for? For example, you can have this as the formula is shown here. COUNTIF A2 colon A5, that's the range. Then the word London. So within this range, we're going to count the number of times the word London has appeared. So I'm going to show you how this can be used in a practical case. Let's look at this Excel document. In this Excel document, we have a column here that has a column heading responses, and we have about 190 responses, either strongly agree or disagree. So there are 119 responses here. So what we want to do is to know the number of times we had people responded by accepting the word agree, or the number of times strongly agree appears or disagree. So what we'll do is to let's look at what constitutes this particular data that we have. We have a total number of 119 records, and the sales range is from B2 to B120. So how do we get that? So B2 to B120. So that's the range that we're going to look at. Then the common fields are agree, strongly agree, and disagree. Then of course here I just decided to use something to show the formula that is used. So I use the COUNTIF, then I mention the range, then I mention the word for agree, the keyword for strongly agree and for disagree. So having this here will bring exactly what we're looking for here. So I have a table here with serial number and the responses. The common ones are agree, strongly agree, and disagree. Then I have frequency. So here under the frequency table, I specifically type in the formula for the count. I employ the COUNTIF function to look at the number of times people agree, the number of times that the word agree appear on this table. So I got 16 times. Then I look at some number of times they strongly agree. So what I need to do is just to change the keywords there. Appeared, then the number of times that the word disagree appears. So I got this. When you add this together using the Excel auto sum function, that gives us 119. So how do you find the percentage? So the percentage will be this over the total times 100. So that's what I got here. So this is in F3, F13. This cell. So this cell is F13, so I have F13 over F16 times 100. So that gave me this, and I do the same for this, and I now discover that from this table, it's clear that the number of times that strongly agree appear is 101. That's 84, almost 85%. Then so 85% responded by accepting the word respondent. Strongly agree to, depending on what you're searching for. So I now plotted a graph on this. So how did I plot the graph? I just highlighted this, then I went to insert, then I choose my chart. So just clicked on it, and I have something here. So you can see that the strongly agree has the highest number of percentage. So this is one way that we can really use this function. Another way is if you have not a single column, but a range of cells that has a lot of fields in it. For example, this is an activities table that shows that it picks data on the daily activities of different individuals. So this was done for about 119 individuals. So the essence was to find out what they do from morning till the time that they are sleeping at every 15 minutes interval. So what I did was under the column heading, I specify 1 to 100 and 1 to 96. So 1 to 96 at 15 minutes interval will give you 24 hours in a day. Then I also were able to capture this from the research work, different activities that happens at different times. So now if you want to find out which of these activities appeared most often and at what time. So I had two different fields, tables here to analyze this data. The first one is for a single individual. So a single individual, we expect that we will have one single row. Then, of course, if we're looking at the entire table, then we'll be looking at the first, we'll be looking at the entire table. So we look at the range that covers the entire table. So that's what I did here. So first analysis was for a single individual. Then the second one is for the entire table. So the total participant here is 119. It's shown there. Let me increase this so we can see it clearly. The total number of participants is 119. Total number of entries, 96 at 15 minutes each. That will give us 140 minutes, which translates to 24 hours. So now here, I also employ the counting function, and I can use that to find out what happens based on the different activities that were identified. For example, I have my serial number here, I have the activity list. So you have something like sleeping and resting, cooking, paid job / profit venture, care for children, goes down and on up to even watching television and all that. So under the frequency, I employ that count if function, and I specifically use this as a field, and the system tells me for this particular user or for this particular respondent, the word sleeping and resting appeared for the 2 times, and the other one that is followed by learning in brackets school including homework was 19 times. So using that field, I could pick up from the table how many times each of these appears based on the range that we're looking at. So for example, if you look at this, we're looking at range A3 to CR3. So what's A3 to CR3? That's the very first record that we have on this table. So I'll go back to it. So A3, so this first cell is A3, and the last cell in this range is CR3. So we're looking at just one record. So within that range, we've got that number of response for this particular individual. And once we've gotten the number of times each of these keywords appears, then I work out their percentage. And from the percentage, I could now work out the time in minutes by multiplying 15 minutes times 42. So I got this. Then I now also find out the time in hours. So I divided this by 60, and I discovered that for this individual, he spends about 11 hours sleeping, and the next highest amount of time that the individual spend on any other activity is something that has to do with schooling work, learning, or doing homework. So this suggests that this person is possibly a student. So now, if we're looking at the entire data, so we're going to look at the entire cell. So the first cell here is A3, and the last cell here is the very last one at the extreme end of the table, and that is CR121. So that is the range that we're going to consider. So if you do that, you will now see that the total number of times that sleeping and resting appeared for 111 respondents was 4,884. So what has changed? The range of cells have changed, but the keywords for search remains the same using the COUNTIF function. Then the timing, what I did was to multiply the frequency times 15 minutes, I got that. Then time in hours, I multiply the total time I got in minutes times 15 times, I divided the total time I got for the time in interval in 15 minutes by 60 to have my time in hours. Then the average time for one person, I divided the total number of time I got in hours by 119, and I got the average. So what does it mean? So that means looking at the average for 119 persons interviewed, this number of people spent about 9 hours in sleeping. Then the next activity was the paid employment. So that means a lot of them were really working. I got about 4 hours. Many of them spend about 4 hours daily in paid jobs, and other ones have various degrees of time. And of course, plotting this is simple. What I needed to do was to just, I think I pick the activity up to the percentage section, highlight on that, then you go to the second column, pick up your chart function, and the system process out for you. So you can see that sleeping and resting got the highest, followed by page job, then others, others also comes in. The ones that are not visible, if we expand this further, you see they will come in. So cooking also comes in there. So that's really how to use the count if function to work with Excel. Thank you for listening.